Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Evan with PodPeak, and in today's video, I'm going to show you my top 5 plugins that can help you with your creativity in recording and mixing. Let's dive in. Welcome to PodPeak, where I talk about recording, editing, and sound design for music production, podcasts, and film. If you're new to this channel, please make sure and give a like to this video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure and ding those notification bells so you get updates every time I put out a new piece of content. Okay, imagine this. You've spent the last week mixing a song, but somewhere along the way, you've lost your vision. The mix sounds boring and stale. The harder you try, the worse it sounds. You take a break, come back to it, work for a while, and then you just throw your hands up in resignation. Nothing is working. But then you remember that one plugin you haven't used in a while. You throw it on the mix bus and boom, instant inspiration. You're back in the game. Sound too good to be true? Well, it kind of is. The truth is, plugins themselves rarely fix a bad mix or a song. But one thing a good plugin can do is add a creative spark. And sometimes that's all you need to take your song or your mix to the next level. So in this video, I'm going to show you my top 5 favorite plugins that I use to spark creativity in my own recordings. Let's go ahead and dive in. Number 5, Spin by Clevgrand. First off, Clevgrand, in my view, is an underrated plugin company based out of Sweden. I personally own a bunch of their plugins, which come with well thought out, beautiful, and easy to use user interfaces, and Spin is no exception. Build is a multi-band modulation plugin. Spin is a great tool to use if you're looking to add some life, dynamics, or character to your vocals, stems, or your mix bus. Besides looking cool, Spin sounds amazing, creating everything from lo-fi warbles to Leslie speaker effects. The plugin is centered around the 4 reels, which share crossover frequencies. Crossover 1 can be set to 80, 120, or 220 Hz. Crossover 2 can be set to 350, 520, or 800 Hz. And crossover 3 can be set to 1.7, 4.5, or 8 kHz. Each reel has knobs for size, modulation, acceleration of the rotor horn, deceleration of the rotor horn, velocity sensitivity, as well as a dial for each band's output level. The faders adjust the speed of each reel. And finally, each reel has a needle, which indicates the offset from the target speed. Obviously, you could go really deep by tweaking these knobs and different features, so make sure and take some time to experiment on your own. Moving to the bottom of the plugin interface, we have a speed mode selector. Switching between different modes will cause acceleration/deceleration effects on the bands. Next, there's a room setting, which adjusts the size and mix of the reverb. To the right, choose between a clean or hot amp mode, which is followed by an amp EQ and amp saturation drive. Finally, there's a master section, which controls input, stereo mix, and output. And one thing that Clevgrand plugins and Spin in particular have in abundance are presets. As always, presets are a great place to start if you're looking to pour a fresh brew of creativity on your audio projects. And finally, here's a quick sample of what Spin sounds like. Number 4, Valhalla Delay. Don't you love it when you put a plugin on a track and it just sounds good right out of the gate? Well, that's exactly why I love Valhalla Delay. Although Valhalla initially made its mark on the audio plugin world with its reverb plugins, including the ultra classic Vintage Verb, the Valhalla Delay is my go-to delay plugin. And it made my list of top creativity plugins because it always adds something to my audio project. Valhalla Delay, like the rest of the Valhalla plugin suite, shares a simple, vintage-looking GUI that is also sleek, super stable, and conveniently resizable. A good place to start with the Valhalla Delay is the Mode section, where you can choose between various styles ranging from tape, hi-fi, digital, lo-fi, and my personal favorite, Ghost, which automatically takes your tracks to Trippyville. The Era section has 3 settings, including past, present, and future. But where Valhalla Delay really stands out is its preset section. I can't tell you how many times I've thrown this plugin on a track, picked a preset, and was off and running with a renewed sense of purpose and creativity. There's lots to choose from, so make sure and filter through the presets to find your favorite sound quickly. Of course, you shouldn't rely on just presets to dial in your sounds, so make sure and fine-tune the settings, which include EQ, modulation, diffusion, color, feedback, and delay length. Finally, you can choose between the various styles, and of course, use the mix knob to sweeten the delay to taste. And here's an audio example of what the Valhalla Delay can sound like. Head down on the highway, I'm staying in the lines. I know you're out there waiting in the country, hoping that I realize I come alive with you. Most days we're doing alright. I come alive with you across the great divides. Sunrise on the horizon, I've been looking for a while. Number 3, Spaced Out by Baby Audio. Baby Audio is newer to the plugin scene, but they've made a huge splash with their innovative and award-winning concepts, relying on simple designs that encourage a hands-on, creative approach. Although I own a bunch of Baby Audio plugins, for getting those out-of-the-box wild sounds, Spaced Out is by far my favorite. Billed as a lush wet effects generator, Spaced Out combines a beautiful crystalline reverb engine with a bunch of modulation options and a 16-step delay sequencer. The outcome is a plugin that will take your tracks or mixes to the outer reaches of the audio cosmos. The first thing you'll notice about the plugin is its simple yet engaging user interface. Starting with the Echoes section, there's a 16-step delay sequencer that syncs to your DAW's BPM. Above that is the modes, which range from straight, 2x, dotted, and triplet. At the bottom is a series of controls including intensity, dimension, texture, a reverse function, as well as a filter section. To the right is the space or reverb section. Encouraging a more left-brained, hands-on approach, the space section has an XY joystick that morphs between reverb length and modulation behavior. Just moving this around by itself can generate some wonderful effects. Above is the program options, where you can choose between vacuum, small space, medium space, and of course, outer space. But where Spaced Out gets trippy is the central mixer, where another joystick blends between the echoes and space wet-dry signals. Just below that is a dice, which is essentially a random preset generator. Click that a few times and you never know, you might find the sound you've been looking for. And to wrap things up, there's the lift-off button, which glues the signals together through a combination of compression, mid-side processing, and EQ. The ducker ducks the wet signal when the dry signal's playing, and the ducker sync syncs the ducker to your DAW's BPM for a pumping effect. And finally, output controls the global effect output. Here's an audio sample of Spaced Out in action. Number 2, Reels by AudioThing. I'm a huge fan of AudioThing, a boutique plugin company that's based out of Dublin, Ireland. In fact, I own most of their products, but the plugin that I use most out of any plugin I own, and I own hundreds of plugins, is definitely Reels. According to AudioThing, Reels is based on an old Japanese portable tape recorder with a very distinct lo-fi analog sound. They've also meticulously modeled 3 different quarter-inch tape frequency responses and saturations, along with all the analog imperfections of tape recording and playback. But Reels is much more than a lo-fi tape recorder. Let's take a much closer look at the plugin itself. Starting at the top, there's a generous supply of ready-to-go presets, although I have to admit, as I've gotten used to the plugin, I usually just create my own sounds. Reels comes with its own dice that creates randomly generated sounds, perfect for spur-of-the-moment creativity. Moving down the controls, Reels has 3 tape types. JP, which is used tape but with an overall better frequency response. IT, new old stock but with a limited frequency response. And FR, overused and badly stored, very bad frequency response. From there, you can alternate between 2 tape speeds. To the right, you'll find familiar tape effects including harshness, wow flutter or warble, ducking, crosstalk, followed by unique sounding hiss and motor sounds. And one of my favorite features is that you can activate an envelope, which only triggers the hiss and motor sounds when audio is actually passing through the plugin. But where the real weirdness happens is the echo section. The echo bypass button enables or disables the echo section. Echo sync syncs the echo to your DAW's BPM. Time controls the time between each repetition. And feedback controls the amount of feedback, increasing the amount of repetitions in the echo signal. There's also low pass and dry level knobs, with a wet only button that disables the dry signal. And of course, there's also a master section, which includes input and output controls. At the bottom of the plugin, from left to right, there's a limit button, which enables or disables a soft clip limiter. The mono button sums the left and right channels of a stereo signal. Pre-emphasis boosts high frequencies before the tape emulation section. And one of my favorite elements of Reels is the record stop function, which starts and stops the tape emulation like this. The speed dial controls the length of the tape start-stop effect. And finally, we have a global mix knob, which honestly, every plugin should have. So there's a lot to cover with this Reels plugin. It pretty much has infinite possibilities, but if you're looking for a lo-fi tape saturation plugin that's on steroids, I'd highly recommend Reels. And here is a few more audio examples of Reels in action. And finally, number 1, Output Portal. Output's tagline is the ultimate creative software for music makers, and I can't say I disagree with them. I own every Output product. For example, I use Arcade on pretty much every project I work on, even if it's just coming up with an idea or adding that little bit of extra ear candy. And like all their effects engines and software instruments, they've really knocked it out of the park with Portal. Portal is referred to as a granular effects plugin. Imagine taking a sound and sending it from your audio interface through the northern lights, then into the universe where it bends, distorts, smears, and breaks up until it returns to your DAW. That's how I would describe the sounds that Portal makes. The great thing about Portal is that there truly are no rules or restrictions, and this starts with the presets. There's over 250 presets, broken into different sections like stretch and smear, pitch, delay, glitchy, rhythmic, and more. The main feature is a massive XY joystick that controls both of the parameter knobs. You can open up the effects, and that's where you can really start to dig into things. Take a listen as I loop this piece of audio and start turning knobs. The grain controls allow you to make crazy tweaks, everything from stretching the audio to changing the pitch and even the scale. Notice every time I touch a control, it shows up in the lower right, so you can clearly see what parameters are being affected. There's also two instances of modulation, where you can really dive deep. You can also open up an effects section as well as a master section. Finally, there's a wet-dry fader, a reverse setting, and an input and output controls. It would take all day to go through all the settings and sounds you could come up with Portal, but if you like really inspiring, creative, odd, out of the box, and just different sounds, I highly recommend picking up Output Portal. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed going through these plugins with me, and I hope you found a little bit of inspiration for maybe next time that you want to do something different or just get some newly found creativity going in your own audio recordings and mixes. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure and leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure and ding those notifications so you get updates every time I put out a new piece of content. All right, well, that's it for today. Take care of yourselves, friends. Peace out, and we'll see you next time.